Thank you. We're going to call the meeting to order tonight, but first thing I want to let you know that I'm going to be filling in for Linda. Linda had some unplanned emergencies happen today, so hopefully with the assistance of Dr. Borft on the right, we'll get through this okay. So with that, can we stand and have the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, now if we can have the statement of our mission read.
Our mission statement says that Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
And our vision statement.
Richmond Community Schools, a community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Thank you. I understand we have a showcase video.
I think we have a pretty entertaining showcase video tonight, and I'll just let it go with that. We'll talk about it afterwards.
Popcorn. That's cute.
Richmond High School has the unique opportunity to offer a fantastic career center, the Richmond Area Career Center, which allows students to explore possible careers for the future with 18 different programs, including things like construction and Project Lead the Way with engineering and biomedics and cosmetology and drafting, and at the same time, of course, automotive technology. And that is what Mr. Summey teaches. He's worked with Ivy Tech. He's a teacher here at Richmond High School. In addition to that, he has private experience out in the field. And so I nominated Mr. Summey as the Richmond Education Association Teacher of the Month because of his passion for vocational education.
Mr. Summey came to us 3 years ago. He was teaching our seniors. At that time, we had a split program between our juniors and seniors. The juniors were here at Richmond High School, and our seniors were out at Ivy Tech. When Mr. Reisinger retired 3 years ago, we had the opportunity to bring Mr. Summey on. We ended up putting our juniors and seniors back together right here at Richmond High School. They still have the opportunity once a month to go out to Ivy Tech to experience the different machines and tools they have that we don't offer here at the high school, which is also a great experience. But
well, I've been teaching since 2008. I came into automotive technology school just after high school. I was told whenever I was in high school that I wasn't college material. In fact, it got somewhere. I was challenged by that, and I felt as though it was necessary for me to push myself. So I started my first college class before I actually walked down graduation aisle, and then I got an associate's and a bachelor's in 4 years' time. My students have many opportunities, one of which is I have 4 students right now placed at Wetzel. They're doing very well from what I gather, and they really enjoy working in the dealership, dealership area. They find themselves very challenged, and they have the opportunity to learn new technology, and they receive new training on an almost daily basis. The thing that I enjoy most, what I consider to be my most positive teaching experience, is that my students, whenever they get something, especially things that are challenging, I mean, I have my students do things I didn't do until I was at the college level. For instance, rebuild transmissions, when they're 14, 15, 16. And what makes that really interesting is that instruction, as well as I find that the most interesting thing about watching them learn is you yourself also grow, and you learn different ways of improving the way in which you deliver.
As you can see, we've blended our showcase video and the REA teacher recognition together. Mrs. Wolpe, would you like to bring up our REA teacher of the month?
Good evening. It's always a great pleasure to be here to celebrate all of the successes in Richmond Community Schools. And tonight, I am very excited to present to you the REA Teacher of the Month. I cannot express to you enough the enthusiasm, the passion, and the student engagement that is going on in our automotive technology department. Josh has got me down there, and it is, you have to come and just see it operate sometime. It is a well-oiled machine down there. So I will give you Josh.
Well, hello, everybody. I would just like to, simply explain what we do. First off, I take on sophomores. There's 2 classes that we run. It's Introduction to Transportation, and then we have an advanced program of juniors and seniors. And my enrollment just keeps going up and up and up, and I had to finally cap it. I said, they said, hey, you got twice as much as what we can take on. And I said, well, let's raise it up, and my advanced class has 28 students in it. The neat thing is when you have 28 students that want to be there and they enjoy what they do, there's no limit to what they can do, and there's no limit to what you can see for their future. I mean, I've got students who want to be mechanical engineers. I've got students who want to take over the family farm, but you have to maintain vehicles. I have students who want to just to be true technicians, and to be a technician this day and age is completely different from the past. I mean, you wouldn't believe that many of my students come back from working at Wetzel and they say, hey, do you know that they make $100,000 a year working on vehicles? I'm like, yeah, no kidding. They're complicated, right? And that's what interests me about automotive technology is how complicated it is. You can never stop learning, and it's much like all of our journey through life. You can never stop giving up. You can never stop pushing yourself forward, and that's maybe what I enjoy most about what I do. Now, on the school end of it, I shared in the video that I was once told I wasn't college material. Well, that was just enough motivation for me to go sign up for a college class while I was still in high school as an Ivy Tech class, and then it was a free one. It's called there's a Taco U program. Well, what's really neat about that is I did that, and then I'm like, hey, I got to do this. So I went and I just took automotive technology. Well, I took it from there and I transferred directly into IU, and I made sure my credits panned out where I could get an associate's and a bachelor's in 4 years, which is really neat because hey, who doesn't want to accelerate their future, their life, in that way? So a lot of what I do with my young people is I try to move them forward, and I always explain to them, there's no, you wouldn't believe where this can lead. Had I known that I was going to have the opportunity to work with, people at the college level, then I actually worked for the Department of Education or federal governments, and then at this point, it spun off into a bunch of different other things. But really, what it all boils down to is I have a blast, and it's just fun, and vehicles, you get me down there, and poor Aaron had to suffer through it once. We were talking about, what I was showing him what I was doing, and we always have custom things. Things are modified. Even right now, we have it's an older vehicle, and but it's a Shelby car. It's one of 1,000. It's 413 of 1,000. That's its number. It's on the dash. But we actually, our students have bolted a Maserati head on this thing. Okay, and why? Because it's cool. Okay, you start doing a lot of this kind of stuff, and you start having a lot of fun with these young people, and you see, hey, I make $30 an hour rebuilding transmissions. I watched a 16-year-old do it. He put it in his grandma's vehicle, and she's still driving the vehicle. So hey, that's pretty sweet, right? And you start seeing that. You see what they can do, and then we have opportunities. That Taco U class I told you about, I negotiated, and I got us 2. So you start thinking about it, and the opportunities they can get a technical certificate for free after when they leave college the summer after. Every year I run summer classes out at Ivy, and they're able to complete that. So it's really neat to see them progress, and it's fun to have them come back and say, hey, you aren't going to believe what I'm doing now, or hey, check out what I'm building, or hey, check out what I've created, or in some cases they'll just look at you and say, check out this burnout. Of course, legal, Aaron. And you find yourself thinking about what all this builds, and we've had a wonderful partnership with a lot of people, and we have the FOP has sponsored our program, as well as as well as there's a large car community in Richmond, and Vintage Wheels Car Club has a car show this weekend, by the way. $5 admission, 12 and under is free, and a lot of the proceeds from that they actually give to our students as scholarships. But more than that, they give to disabled people. My students help run that show. We actually help run 6 shows. But the main thing I want to let you know is, hey, we have a lot to offer. Hey, we're always doing something, and we're always trying to cook something up because, 1, it keeps us out of trouble, and 2, we truly enjoy what we do. So thank you very much.
Well, before you sit down, I want to make sure none of the other board members have anything to say, but one of the things I want to say first is we've been working really hard as a team this year to do a better job of telling our story out in the public and looking down into the elementary schools and discussing different pathways in life, different choices, different. So it's a blessing to hear you talk about how you're trying to bring that to life for your students, and I think that's what we all want to do.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to say, it didn't show on the video, but I know there's girls in that program because at open house, I've seen them working.
Oh, yeah, it's really neat.
So that was great, too.
One of my female students, she has a 1970 MG, little British sports car. She's rebuilding it right now. It's down there, and she loves that thing. You know, I kid her that she has ironically enough, she has a guy name for it. You know how like most men name their cars female names. You know, and you know, so some days he's kind of mean to her, some days he's good to her. You know, and so it's kind of neat to see that. So anyway, yeah, we truly enjoy it, and it doesn't matter who you are. You can come on my program. All you have to do is want to work, and we'll have a lot of fun together.
Aaron?
Congratulations on being named
Oh, well,
Teacher
thank you
of the
very
Month.
much.
But what you saw him do just now, and his presentation is exactly how he is in the classroom. And I spent some time there that day. He said I had to suffer through it. I guarantee you it was no suffrage on my part, because it was just a fantastic experience, and to see the students engaged, and especially the young ladies, and I mean just learning. And I want to thank you, because you're a great ambassador, not just for that portion of our education system, but for Richmond Community Schools altogether.
Well, thank you. I do my best.
Here, here.
Love your enthusiasm.
Hey, you know, like I said, the more I move, the more I do. It just keeps me out of trouble.
I'd also like to recognize Ms. McDermott back there. Thank you for recognizing this particular teacher.
Am I good?
Thank you, sir. You are released now.
Hope you all have a wonderful
bell has
evening.
rung.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Since we kind of merged right into the celebrating of joy of learning, I assume the language arts is our next.
Yes, I turn that over to Mr. Millis.
We'd like to thank the board for allowing us to present some information on some of the things that we've been working on with language arts the last 6 months. And 2 things we'll cover tonight. One will be our adjustment to the new Indiana standards, and share the work we've been doing on that. Dr. Parker and teachers have really been working hard to update our curriculum maps. And the other piece will be sharing the new language arts curriculum, which we adopted in grades 7 through 12, and also letting you see the digital side of the curriculum, so that you will understand, once we can get to that one-to-one stage, the opportunities that teachers and students will have. We're kind of limited right now, but I think it's kind of exciting. So I'll turn this piece over to Dr. Parker and follow up.
And Mr. Millis and I went to a conference today, and one of the presenters said something, and I thought it is so true. She said as she was driving to the conference, she thought, these roads are always under construction. And then she said, well, you know what? Education in Indiana seems to be always under construction. We have been changing from year to year in terms of our standards. And I think we finally landed on standards that I hope that these will be our standards for a few years. So one of the first things I wanted to show you was that Department of Education provides us with blueprints so that we know what to expect on ISTEP, so we know what percentage of the test is going to cover which kinds of standards. And so I'm going to use 7th grade language arts because we're talking about language arts, and Mark Millis is going to share some 7th grade curriculum with you. But this is a blueprint for what ISTEP will look like if I'm a 7th grader and I'm taking the English language arts test. And so if I look, let's see if I can do this, here, then I can say that probably somewhere between 24 and 34% of the test is going to be on reading literature, and another 25 to 35% is going to be on nonfiction and media literacy. It's going to be reading comprehension. And so as a teacher, that tells me right away I need to be focusing on that quite a bit. Vocabulary, 3 to 13%. So while we want to teach vocabulary, we don't want to teach a lot of vocabulary in isolation. We want to teach it embedded in that reading comprehension so that they're getting it, but we don't want to spend a lot of time on it in isolation. So those are the blueprints. Let's see, turn this off. Rob, can you help me turn this on? I don't know. I can't use my back button.
You're on our webpage, aren't you?
I don't want to close. We're locked up.
Still a low percentage, isn't it?
Can we X out of it? X out.
Always good to have an IT specialist around.
Okay, so now we're back to, I'm not using that marker anymore, by the way. You have to follow me. Then the DOE has also provided us with some instructional and assessment guidance, and I wanted to show you these because we use these as we built our own maps, and the most important part to look at is this page right here, because they have given us a set of standards, and if you, when you look at our maps, you'll see there are a lot of standards for each grade level. For kindergarten, first grade, lots and lots of English language arts standards, lots and lots of math standards. And so as a teacher, you look at that wealth of content and you think, how do I know where I should be spending most of my time? Well, the DOE has said if it's got a check plus in front of it, you should be spending 50 to 75% of your instructional time teaching those standards. And then there will be some that are important content that you're going to kind of spend 25 to 50% of your time on, and then these additional content standards on the outside. And so when the DOE finally said, these are going to be your standards, we said, okay, we're ready to start mapping ours. And we've done this. We did it. The first time we did it with Indiana standards. Then we did it with Indiana standards, adding Common Core. Then we did it with Common Core standards. And then now we have the new Indiana academic standards, which we hope are our final set of standards in my lifetime. And so we've remapped them. So what we've done is we've taken, and these are available to the public. If you go to the RCS website and you go to staff links, you don't have to have a password to get to these, so any parent, any student, any teacher has quick access to these. So these are what the maps look like. And so what we've done is we took the standards and we put them in the maps and said, these are the standards. Then we looked at our instructional materials that we use, and we've just adopted new English language arts materials, which Mr. Millis will be sharing with you. And we said, let's go through the scope and sequence of the new materials that we've purchased, and let's make sure that we're getting adequate coverage of these standards by using these materials. And so what you see over in the right, the X's mean if you use these materials and you go through them, you're going to cover this standard. If it's covered during that 6 weeks time and there's an X there, you're getting coverage. And so right away we said, we're pretty confident that we're getting good coverage. The thing that we did after that was we had the coaches and the principals work with teachers in their building with their grade level teams, because while the DOE said we think these are important standards, we wanted our teachers to have a voice in terms of what they thought were the important standards. And so each school sent me sort of a consensus map of these are the things that we think are really, really important. And so we took that input and the DOE input in terms of what are the critical standards. And so what you see on the left-hand side of our maps then is our check pluses and our checks, and then our less important standards. And so where you see the gray on the maps. That was also decided by teacher input. One of the reasons that we moved away from Acuity, number one, was we weren't sure that they would be able to get Acuity updated and caught up with the new standards in time for us. They made no commitment that they were going to do that. And two, what we found as we really looked at Acuity last year, that I don't know if you remember or not, but we went into Acuity and we asked for permission to create our own assessments because their assessments weren't aligned with our maps. And so we brought groups of teachers in. We really dug into Acuity and looked at the items and the item bank and built our own assessments. And we found two things. One, the quality of the questions was not as good as we had wanted it to be. And two, every test was measuring a wide band of standards, but they were measuring them very shallow. So we were making really important instructional decisions about kids based on their performance on Acuity, and when we would really dig into it, we would find on that standard there were 2 questions. So if the student missed 1 question, it looked like we really needed to remediate. And so the meetings that we had last year with the teachers, what they said was, we want to test the critical standards and we want to test them with integrity. So instead of testing 15 standards with 1 or 2 questions each, can we test 5 standards with 5 to 10 questions each and really know when we get the results if this student needs more work in this area or not. And so the gray is when those particular standards will be tested on our benchmark assessments. And so that's the standard part of it. So now I'm going to let Mark talk to you about how we actually take this and turn it into instruction. Good.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. The handout that I gave to you, I think you'll see the links between our map. This is actually just 3 pages from the 7th grade. But I've highlighted the critical standards, those with the check plus, and then some of the shifts that are going on in language arts. And you'll notice that 50% of the reading selections should be nonfiction and informational text. Along with that, there's a focus on having fewer selections, and we do have a hardbound textbook, which we're currently using, but it also has the digital textbook, and we do have some teachers using that where they have that one-to-one access. Teachers are also able to use the digital components as they present material, but we're migrating towards that. But now language arts won't have quite as much fiction and short stories and novels, a little more emphasis on memoirs, speeches, biographies, watching documentaries and responding to those. Close reading will become very important, where you actually take a document, read it the first time, or listen to the speech, then reread it, analyze what's there, and then do a response to that. Vocabulary building is very critical, writing arguments and understanding arguments, writing narrative composition, and then spending time on research topics and formulating questions. So that is the shift that language arts has taken, especially in grades, I would say 6 to 12. Our language arts curriculum from Houghton Mifflin is in grades 7 through 12. Going to have to take a moment to put my password in. Okay, I am logged in on the teacher site. A student also will have a dashboard on their site. There'll be a variety of items that would be available for teachers and students. On the dashboard, you can get, and we'll look at a quick overview of the student for about 2 minutes, guided tour of the student edition. The teacher edition then has many resources. We'll spend most of our time just looking at the student ebook. professional development is available for teachers. The FYI side, those are additional selections that students can use to support their arguments or a paper. My notebook, there's a note-taking mechanism built within where students do close readings, take notes. They can keep track of those. And then also there is a writing component, which it doesn't show here because this is the teacher edition. But the My Write piece that students will have available is they'll do their compositions on here. They can then the teacher may put it in to turn it in. You can give an evaluation of that writing, and students can get feedback so that teachers can read it and evaluate it as well, but also there's an electronic component to that. I'm going to go back and just give a quick 2-minute tour of the student edition.
The future of English language arts instruction for students begins with one-stop access to all of their digital resources. The student ebook contains all the content of the print student edition and close reader, plus digital collections, lessons that provide comprehensive, interactive standards instruction in writing, speaking, and listening. Cross-genre selections are linked by topics and organized into collections, each comprised of anchor texts, related selections, performance tasks, and close reader selections. By selecting the Contents icon from the ebook navigation bar, students are able to navigate to a collection and all the selections within. One easy click links to anywhere in the ebook from one entry point. Media resources such as history, A&E, and biography are easily accessed. When reading an anchor text, students have access to a unique feature, close read screencasts, that model close reading by making text analysis come alive on the screen. These screencasts provide modeled conversations and visuals that help students understand how to analyze complex texts.
These two are our defining ideals. They are also in constant conflict. So what is a conundrum? The footnote says it's a riddle or puzzle.
Yeah, and with the puzzle, you have to figure out how all the pieces fit together.
The powerful and dynamic annotation tools in the collection student ebook support close reading in an environment that is both intuitive and interactive. Students' highlighting and sticky notes can be saved, tagged, and organized in My Notebook, and later used for after-reading questions, activities, writing, and performance tasks, ensuring that students are citing evidence as they read and write. Interactive digital lessons for writing, speaking, listening, research, and media sharpen students' college and career readiness skills. From My Write Smart, students can submit their papers to Turn It In, where they will receive an originality score and information about sources they used in their work. Students can also access the FYI site with curated contemporary informational text for additional relevant reading related to collections topics. Because we know that students don't always have internet access, the collection student ebook and close reader are available in downloadable EPUB 3 versions as well as print. Never before have students been able to access one online platform that supports all aspects of Common Core English language arts: reading, writing, speaking, listening, media, and research. Next, find out about all the resources available to teachers by watching the Teacher ebook and resources video.
Interesting.
I think you'd be impressed too with what's there for teachers, but we'll go ahead and kind of dive into the student ebook. And I've decided to go to a selection which is probably for us, not ancient history, but for our students would be ancient history. And the actual unit is, again, it's a collection of speeches, short stories, poems, biographies, things that all relate to the same topic. In this case, risk and exploration. In this collection, you will encounter individuals who must confront a compelling question: how far is too far? There's a performance task. It'll vary at the end of each unit. In this case, they'll be writing argumentative or persuasive speech. Again, they'll prepare for each selection with some vocabulary work. In this case, if I were the teacher, I'd love to be the teacher doing this. I was a foreign or language arts teacher. Probably the way I would present this is in the first reading, we would listen to Kennedy give the speech, but also some background information. So I'll just play 30 seconds of the History Channel that would give them some background.
There were moments during the Kennedy administration when superpower rivalry was transformed from an expression of man's barbarity to an expression of mankind's ultimate capability.
We set sail on this new sea because there is new knowledge to be gained and new rights to be won, and they must be won and used for the progress of all people.
Cape Canaveral, February 20th, 1962.
Water systems, go!
After 10 aborted attempts, Friendship 7 was finally on the pad, ready to fly.
Mercury capsule, no. All pre-start panel lights are correct. The ready light is on. Eject Mercury umbilical.
Atop an Atlas intercontinental ballistic missile, Colonel John Glenn was strapped into a capsule in...
I think most of us here can remember in school stopping everything and watching those flights, and at the time it was really risky.
Listening on the radio.
You listened.
No, we watched it. Another component then, if you would listen to it, just a short.
The President's remarks at the dedication of the Aerospace Medical
So you
Health Center.
might turn out the lights and
Air
listen
Force
to the
Base,
speech
Texas,
just to get the overview. I
November
might
21st,
ask them what's the purpose of the speech.
Mr. Secretary, Governor, Mr. Vice President, Senator, members of the Congress, members of the military, ladies and gentlemen. For more than 3 years, I've spoken about the new frontier. This is not a partisan term, and it's not the exclusive property of Republicans or Democrats. It refers instead to this nation's place in history, to the fact that we do stand on the edge of a great new era, filled with both crisis and opportunity, an era to be characterized by achievement and by challenge. It is an area which calls for action, and for the best efforts of all those who would test the unknown and the uncertain in every phase of human endeavor.
After listening to it, then there would be several activities and close reading where Kennedy will go through and make an argument basically to have more funding for the space program. The speech was given November 21st, if you remember that date being critical, and later it was funded to the degree where, as you know, Mercury and Saturn and all of the other programs were. So students will be given information about making an argument, and then close read, how does he develop his argument, and then ask later on to do that themselves in a performance task. The unit, a later piece, will look at later on in the space program when funding was questioned after a couple of the explosions and whether or not manned space flight Today, the relevance, I think they'll be asked to do some research, and the relevance today is, I think a lot of the space travel may be done by private entities and manned and unmanned space flights, and so I think some of our current students might become interested from that angle. So I felt like when we got into looking at our textbook selection, maybe we would delay a year, but I felt that this company had put together a digital program that really would enhance learning and give us a model on which to build and engage students in a different kind of way. So we'll trace the progress of this. We have several teachers at the high school who are using it, and Clayton Smith is one who is really kind of using it to its max and getting kids into the lab. So we'll trace that progress and report to you, but we're pretty excited about it, and I'll stop there.
Now, just for, we are using this, this was part of our adoption
Yes.
this past year.
Yes.
So, and we are using it now, and it's just at the high school?
No, 7 through 12.
7 through 12.
And I saw the textbook going around. They do have hardbound textbooks, and there are also novels we received to go along with it. The actual textbook is rather small. And again, the emphasis is on shorter selections, not as many, but doing more with those and engaging kids in a different way.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
Have you had any anecdotal feedback yet from students, especially in the class who said that he's really using it?
Yeah, again, if we had more technology, but I believe a teacher at the middle school stated that when she was able to get the iPads and utilize and have the kids on them, the interest level goes way up. So,
well, that's one of the things as I was listening to the presentation and made the comment about e-reader. That makes our decision about what we do with technology, and the technology piece is even more important, because I'm sitting here thinking, well, just a simple $100 reader might be good, but then it may not be for the writing piece of it. So it's interesting to see this brought before us, because I think it also lets us be more aware of how much of a difficult decision we have coming on what the right device is, and I don't think there is going to be a right device. So I think it's going to be multiple devices. So anyway.
Well, I think you're accurate. And when we were at the conference today, and when you attend these conferences, there's usually some technology involved. And I had my cell phone, which serves one purpose. I had my iPad to take notes and also follow what was taking place overhead. And that's just kind of the way people work today, several devices at a time.
All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm assuming you were done. All right, the next item on our agenda is the AP student checks.
Yes. Mrs. Wolpe, as you're coming up, I'd like to remind the board that we had a special partnership, have a special partnership with Notre Dame, and it's to enhance our AP offerings at the high school. And we talked about some incentives when the program began. Well, there's literally dividends from that incentive, and that's what Mrs. Wolpe's here to talk about tonight.
Another exciting thing for Richmond Community Schools. And as Dr. Boroff just explained to you, I think it was 2 years ago, Karen, wrote a grant. Notre Dame was choosing cohorts of schools from Indiana to be a part of their advanced placement training and incentive program grant. What we are presenting to you tonight is the student part of this and the benefits from this grant. And the benefits are not just the financial that I'm going to talk about, but the benefits are also that our teachers and our students are provided with Saturday study sessions. Is it three times a year? where folks from Notre Dame come, facilitators come, and they have intensive sessions. Our students have been phenomenal at attending these. We have gotten all kinds of positive comments from Notre Dame, so I really commend our students on their engagement and their embracing the advantages that this Notre Dame grant provides for them. An advanced, just so you know, advanced placement, when a student takes an advanced placement course, there is a test that is a national test at the end of that course. Students can score from a 1 to a 5. Students who score a 3, 4, or 5 are eligible for college credit. And it depends upon the college that they are attending, whether or not they're going to accept a 3. Some colleges say, no, you have to get a 4 on the AP test. But with the grant, students who take an advanced placement math, science, or English course at Richmond High School, and they score a 3, 4, or 5, are given $100 for every test that they score a 3, 4, or 5 on. We had 71 students last year that scored a 3, 4, or 5 on their AP test and were awarded $100 for each one of those tests, for a total of $10,700 to our Richmond High School students. So 71 of those students got a check 2 weeks ago, and it was extremely exciting. One of the other things, before I have the students introduce themselves, and again, we have 29 current students. 42 of the students graduated in June. But 29 of the students, we ask all of the students to come, but as you know, our students are extremely involved, whether it is extracurriculars or work. So we did get a representative group here tonight, and they'll answer any questions that you have and will be very accommodating to anything that you would like to know. But one thing before I introduce them, I want all of you to know that Richmond High School was one of 6 finalists for the Notre Dame AP TIP Grant School of the Year. We were one of the top 6 finalists. Now, we didn't win, but we were one of the top 6, and it was great to see our name, Richmond High School, flashed up on the screen as one of the 6 finalists, as Karen and I and some of the AP teachers attended a ceremony yesterday. And at some point, we would like to bring the teachers, because the teachers also receive stipends and bonuses for the number of students that they have that have a qualifying score. And to add to that, one of our English teachers, Kara Barker, was nominated as one of the Teachers of the Year for English AP. And so we're very proud of that. And again, we will bring Kara and our AP teachers back to the board so we can also celebrate them. So without further ado, I would like for each of the students I'd like for you to introduce yourself, let us know what grade you're in, and how many AP courses that you had last year. All right? Okay. Okay.
Hi, I'm Madeline Mops. I am a junior this year, and I only took 1 AP course last year.
I'm Maya Van Buskirk. I'm a junior too, and last year I took AP Biology.
This year?
Oh, yeah. This year, I'm taking AP Chemistry, AP Physics, AP US History.
Awesome.
Maddie's gonna tell you what she's taking this year, all right?
Okay, yeah, so last year, I took AP Bio, and this year I'm taking AP Chemistry, AP US History, AP Calc, and that's it.
Is that all?
Okay. Hi, I'm Stella Thunderwood. Last year I took AP Language and APUSH, and this year I'm only taking AP Literature, but I'm also, as a junior in high school, taking a college class up at Earlham, Intro to African American Studies, so there's that.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Timothy Stroud. I'm a senior at Richmond. Last year I took AP US History, and as well as AP US History I took AP Chemistry. And this year I'm taking AP Literature, AP Language, AP Spanish, AP Calc, and then in the next 2 trimesters I will be taking AP Government, and with the addition of an online course I will be taking AP Economics.
You're going to be rich.
Hello, I'm Dallas Hyle. I'm a senior at Richmond High School. Last year I took English Composition, AP English Composition, and this year I'm taking Calculus, Physics 2, Statistics, and Computer Science.
Wow. Well, congratulations. As a parent that has paid for college credits, I mean, it's good to hear the rewards that you're receiving now, but there's also some financial rewards later for the credits that you'll receive. So, and I appreciate your studying on Saturday morning. So I know that's not always an interest for high school students. So, Kelly,
Ms. Wolpe, can you tell us again how many AP courses we offer?
Okay. We now offer 12 AP courses, and we are in the process of Carrie Ann Polk-Meek is part of our AP Academy. She's working with them, and she has met with all the AP teachers, and we are now looking at online AP courses that we can add to the 12 that we already have. So our AP teachers are looking at the online curriculums to make sure that they meet the rigor and the standards that we expect at Richmond High School. But we actually have 12 AP classes that are teacher taught right now at Richmond High School.
So do those qualify for incentives for the students?
No, they would not. No.
Well, that leads to another question. This probably is for the students. When the incentives are over with, I mean, you've come at a great time. Your timing is perfect as students because we have a grant and it offers incentives. When that grant expires and we no longer have incentive dollars to offer students, what will be the incentive, do you think, for students to take the coursework?
The 5 AP courses that I'm taking are all for my career. I want to go to college for video game design, and physics, calculus, and computer science are obviously 3 things that would be very important for programming and doing the math for video game design. But you also need the English and the statistics in order to create some background to it. So that's why I'm taking it. The $100, though it did help me, it did not influence my decision enough to make me take a course that I did not want to take.
Okay, thank you.
So, hi. In context of what I'm doing right now at Earlham, I understand that the social studies isn't covered by the grant, but both the APUSH and the AP Language that I had taken last year has helped me in that class at least understand the way college will work and understand what college expects as far as writing level, as far as knowing historical context, as far as understanding how to approach a reading and annotate it and do all that. And so, I mean, I would say that the incentive, regardless of, monetary whatever, is college readiness, is being able to go on and I know some other people are also taking classes at Earlham, and that that AP experience has helped them, get their way into that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
The reasons that I took AP classes, and I believe it's a belief shared with most of my peers, is that they really help bolster an application. If you're trying to apply for colleges, one of the best things you can do, I found from people I've known who have gone to college, has been to take AP classes because it demonstrates that you're disciplined, you accept academic rigor, and you're ready to challenge yourself to something that the average student may not be up to or have any want to or desire to really take. So it was a way to try to distinguish myself, and was also a way, as Stella said, to prepare myself for college. So really, taking APE classes, I feel, is the closest I can get to the next step in my education while still at high school.
I chose to take AP Bio before I knew the grant was even a thing, so it was honestly was a bonus. But then this year, I think one of my favorite things about being in honors and AP classes are the people who you're in the class with, because you're with other people who want to take honors and AP classes, who you can study with, go to the Saturday sessions, and like, okay, I'm about to spend the next 6 hours learning something with you. Let's be friends. And so it's it makes it a lot easier to learn these things when you know there's other people who struggle with the same things, who are learning the same things, and it's a great way to make friends and have classes with your friends.
I completely agree with everyone before me. But I think also like the AP classes, it's a way for me to challenge myself compared to the other classes. I mean, not to say that there aren't other classes that aren't AP that aren't challenging, but like the specific classes that I'm taking that are like calculus, I really enjoy math, and taking like this harder math class, it's actually something that I enjoy. It's me taking advantage of my education, and so that's what I use it for.
Oh, gosh, I love those answers.
Wow.
Very mature answers.
I think what you've all proved in your comments is that you're maximizing your educational opportunity here at Richmond through the AP courses. But I also know of kids who are like, ooh, that might be kind of scary. It might be kind of hard. What would be your advice? What is the thing that helps you get through those AP classes so that you feel, that you come out the other side and you're all thumbs up? How does that work for you? What kinds of skills or where do you pull your tenacity from?
If I were to give advice to someone who's a bit tentative about taking AP classes, obviously you need to keep the AP test in mind, as that is probably of premier importance when it comes to taking the entire class. But really, you have to look at it as a class itself. It's an opportunity to learn. While the AP test is daunting, rest assured that your teacher will prepare you, and just try to take in the class as much as you can, because I know my AP experience right now and last year, I tried my best, and it was as enriching as it could possibly be. So while it is challenging, it is far more than worth it, and the AP test may be a bit scary initially. It may throw some kids off. I've heard some people say that they may not want to take an AP class simply because the AP test would be too challenging. But really the class itself, barring the test, is more than worth it. And then taking the test as really just a recognition of your hard work, and seeing those results along with the check, you can imagine a better way to recognize all the hard work students put in. So I'd encourage anyone to take an AP class.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to throw in there, I know that every challenge, you never know what the class is going to be like in any class. And so I know when I sign up for my classes, I always say to myself, if it's too hard, you can always drop it. If it's too hard, you can always just take a step back, or you can push through it. And I know when we took AP Biology as sophomores, we hadn't learned chemistry yet. And so everyone thought we were crazy for taking chemistry and AP Biology at the same time. And it was hard, but we powered through it. we made it through. And so they help you. They're not trying to mess you up. They're not trying to make it harder on you. They give you books. You have teachers who are certified to teach this. And the Saturday sessions I found were probably the best way to get through the test, just because we did sit there and we learned something for hours. And it was a nice switch up from our classroom and our teacher, a different change. And it was just, they give you your best chance to pass the test. It's just a matter of whether you have the willpower to take it and run with it.
Thank you.
Anyone else have?
Okay.
Nope.
This kind of goes along with what the others had said, but I know that as a sophomore, I had skipped sophomore English to take AP Language, and that jump as far as thinking and as far as, understanding how to think critically and how to analyze in text and whatnot was significant. It was a dramatic jump from what I had experienced in freshman English, but what helped me the most was the availability of the teachers, as well as trusting in the resources, because I know if I had an issue, I would go to Dr. Kimball in AP Language or Mr. Price or Mrs. Polk-Meek for my A-Push, and that was absolutely, absolutely heartening to know that they had the time and that they would take the time then to help a student, especially a sophomore, to power through that. And I know that's what you got to do is power through it.
Dixie?
Well, first off, I just want to say, I wish we could just make you guys poster children for Richmond Community Schools. You're fabulous. So, and also, I have attended some of those Saturday sessions, and they are phenomenal. I wish we could have those for every single kid at Richmond High School. And also to thank Karen Kimball for her grant writing abilities, for making this possible for our kids at Richmond High School. I know it takes a tremendous amount of hard work, and I know she's very proud of all of you.
Jeff,
Suzanne?
do we have a estimate of between, I'd say, any of those that are on this list, how many students did we have in AP classes? Do we know?
About 200.
Okay.
And that's one of the goals of the grant is to encourage participation in AP courses. The state of Florida, and there's another state that slips my mind, but did the same thing as Notre Dame is doing. And the state of Florida did it and has done a lot of research on following students. And one of the things that they have found that's so significant, and it's a message that we're trying to get across to all of our students, even if I take an AP class and I don't score a 3, 4, or 5, what Florida's research found was just taking an AP class, even if I got only a 1 or 2 on it, the success rate of those students staying in college went exponentially up because they had experienced that, what they described as powering through it, experiencing the rigor, the deeper thinking, the analytical thinking. And so we want to encourage as many students as possible, and that's part of the incentive of the grant, correct, Karen, is for us to, our teachers are given goals. You know, can we get X amount of students enrolled?
Right.
And so therefore giving those students that kind of college experience of the rigor. So,
well, and I think if I'm, Karen, you have more direct or recent experience with this than I do, but my understanding is a lot of schools too are placing a very high value on strength of schedule for students, and even not as much as grades.
Right.
But did you challenge yourself? And while I'm sure all of you are A students, even the students who power through and maybe don't get all A's, but take these really strong, rigorous curriculum, their success of getting into some of those schools is still pretty decent. So that in itself is a
right.
very important
Notre Dame
piece.
shared with us their admissions department. When they get a transcript, the first thing they do is take a highlighter and they highlight all the AP courses that they've taken. That's one of the number one things that they do when they are looking at accepting students into Notre Dame. Is they don't look at the GPA. They say, how many AP courses? How has this student challenged themselves?
To me, that's an important thing for the students to understand too, because I do think there are probably students who are thinking, if I take that schedule, the chances of me keeping my 4.0 are less.
Right.
And they need to understand that that might still be the smarter thing to do. And so
Right,
that's-
right.
All right. Anybody else? Well, thank you, Mrs. Whitney.
Thank you so much.
Dr.
Thank you
Campbell.
for honoring our students. We
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I wish you would.
As a parent of a Chinese student for 1 year, I was talking to her 2 days ago, and she received her $300. But the important thing is she's taking calculus at the University of California in San Diego, and the professor can't understand how prepared she is because it's just all review for her right now. And she
Awesome.
said that, and she got a 100 on her midterm exam
Goodness.
yesterday, and it's based upon the AP courses here that Richmond's providing.
Wow, that's a great testimonial, too. That's fantastic.
All right. Well, I hate to leave that section of our agenda because it was pretty positive. but-
Adjourned.
All right. Our public commentary is next. Do we have anybody that signed up to?
We had a couple of guests in the audience who had to leave, but before they left, they presented to Aaron Stevens here. I'll let him introduce it.
The RHS class of 1964 recently had a gathering, and as a result, I understand it was a spectacular gathering, too, if I may say so. I was 4. I was just 4 at the time.
You just had to
Yeah,
make
left
sure.
that part.
That was not part of their
That was not part
commentary.
of their. However, as they wanted to
Didn't want
gift
anything
to the Alumni Association a nice check here, and for the purchase of a brick for the class of 1964. The two ladies that were here, including Vicki Brim, a lot of you may know her. They both had other issues that caused them to have to leave. And they did not want to seem rude by having to leave in the midst of one of our presentations, but family needs caused them to leave. But they did leave this check with the hope of purchasing a brick for the class of 1964. So
We
I'll present that to you, Dr. Bohr.
Sure. They had a reunion not long ago, and I was part of their tour.
You take them in the tower?
It was a very spirited class. I can only tell you that. It was fun to be with them, and it was almost as though the 50 years simply didn't happen. When they came into the school, they were 18 again, and they behaved like that. And it was just it was pretty enjoyable.
And so were you that age too, or were you the teacher?
I was from Kokomo High School, and it was fun. It was fun as a rival at that point, and we had a good time together. But I can tell it was a class that considers their high school to be very important.
That's good.
50 years later.
All right. Well, I guess now we'll move on to the consent items.
Consent items include the approval of minutes, the approval of our human resources, and that does not include any addendum tonight. Accounts payable and filing of reports, which would be our monthly financial report.
I make a motion to accept the consent items as presented.
Kelly makes the motion.
Second, please.
And Susie seconds. I forgot Susie's name for a second.
I answer what's
Are there any questions or comments on the items on the consent agenda? I see none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Passes 6-0. All
Okay.
right. Next item, reports and discussion topics.
Very brief report on our collective bargaining. We do have some sessions established. We have one for November 4th and one for November 10th, should we need that. November 4th begins at 4 o'clock, and that is with a mediator. We're hoping that maybe that's the only night we need that mediator.
So we're not planning on having any kind of meeting before November 4th then?
No, there won't be one before November 4th.
Okay. Well, let's hope for positive results.
The next item is our garrison appraisal, and if you recall, we weren't sure that we would have that appraisal ready for this evening. I can't say that it's in the best the best possible situation. I don't know that we've digested the appraisal, but it did come in during the day, and we do have some information to present. I turn that over to Mrs. Scow.
Good evening. This is actually most literally hot off the press. Mr. Napodi was kind enough to get that to us in a rush so that we could have it for tonight's meeting. And I have the original. It will be located in my office should you like to see it. We also can email that out to the board. We have taken the time to scan that in. We just did not have it for you before the meeting in enough time to allow you to review it. But the basic premise in the summary of the appraisal is that the 12-acre parcel of land, should we raise the structures on it, and including parking lot, everything, would appraise at $57,000 for the land value. Should we leave the property alone, it would appraise for $32,900. And that's $32,900, and that Mr. Cross is going to evaluate this further, but there is a clause that Mr. Napodi feels it's his opinion that should we look at a donation type relationship on value with a not-for-profit or a government agency, that value could be as high as $50,000. So that is the general consensus and summary of the report that he provided. I'm going to ask now that the board discuss the future possibilities of the property, and it's my thought that perhaps we could refer this to the Finance Committee at their next meeting. They could do a review of the appraisal and all of the financials involved, whether they be demolition, whether they be marketing the property, but that we can review that at Finance Committee and present a review at the first November meeting, which would be the 12th.
Kelly.
I had a couple questions. You said that if the building was there, it was 32.9, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's just the building, right?
That is the entire parcel of property as it currently exists,
With the building on it.
with the building on
Well,
it.
yeah, but I thought that was just the building and not the acreage.
No, that's the entire property.
12
Could you,
acres.
could we get maybe the summary page?
It has been emailed to you. The summary
Okay.
page, the letter that summarizes everything that I covered tonight has been emailed out to you. We also can email the full
I don't need the
appraisal to
full,
you if you
but I'd
want
like
it,
to see
but you should have it in your email.
Okay.
You said it'll be available in your office for review. Okay.
Any other questions? I think some of the things that we'll have to consider, and I agree with the recommendation, it go to the Finance Committee at least for some kind of a thought or opinion coming back on the where we stand financially with it, because sometimes we may want to make a decision not based strictly on finances, because one of the things that I want to make sure that we do, or I think it's important that we do, is if we have fully decided to get rid of the building or the site, I don't want it sitting there looking like an eyesore 10 years from now either. So I think we have a responsibility to the community to make sure that we do some things the right way. So.
Well, and it costs us more to maintain it for 1 year than the value of the property
Right.
total.
That's right.
I think that's part of the goal for the Finance Committee to come back with, is maybe provide a summary of all the costs that are wrapped around it. Our yearly maintenance, the cost to raise it, the cost of us not doing anything. I think that's important.
Agree.
And I think maybe if we could have that all-around summary presented at the same time, then we can have a much more intelligent conversation on the 12th. So, does it sound good to you guys?
That does sound good. Unfortunately, I'm a member of the Finance Committee, and I mentioned to you earlier that I am scheduled to be out of town for our next meeting, but perhaps Kelly would take my place, because she has a good background in this
I would
area.
encourage any board member to attend. It's a public meeting. They're open.
Well, of course
so,
it is.
So I would encourage any board member that wants to participate in the meeting. It's going to be at 1:30, I believe, on the 11th of November. So. We good?
Okay.
All right. Now we'll move on to the action items.
And this is the receipt of donations. We turn to Mrs. Scalf again.
Okay, the donations this month consisted of a donation to Dennis Intermediate School for, or by the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office in the amount of about $400. The hats, which is Hibbert Action Team, and that is a lot like their PTO type group, made a donation to Hibbert of $390. Youth as Resources also donated to Hibbert in the amount of $400. We had an anonymous donation at Test in the amount of $192. Ray Wolpe donated to the high school a $50 donation, a $564 donation, and 80 cents. Mr. J. Roderick Weiss donated to the high school in the amount of $2,200. Mary Schwender Holt of Interconnections Counseling donated to the athletic program an amount of $200. Ray Wolpe donated to the athletic program in the amount of $50. The Gannett Foundation donated to Civic Hall $100, and the PEO Sisterhood AU chapter also donated $50 to Civic Hall. So I ask that you accept the donations in the amount of $4,596.80 this month.
Do I have, Aaron, have a motion to accept the donations, and I have a second from Dixie. Any comments or questions? I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against say nay. Passes 6-0. I forgot to say aye, but
You just did.
I just did. Hey, I got the newbie excuse. I can use that for a while, right?
One meeting.
Just once.
Our next item would be the annual financial goals, and I believe that there will be some discussion of our quarterly financial report as well.
Yes, this evening I thought I would change up past practice a little bit and weave our annual financial goals into our quarterly report. And the two work well together. As we're starting to end our year, we start looking toward next year already, and our goals and our thoughts on where we want to be this year, and then also where we want to be this time next year. So the first document you'll see is the monthly cash flow, and you will see this month we know our ADM from September, and we are now able to actually pretty much plan our basic grant for the remainder, at least, of this year. At the Finance Committee meeting this month, I presented a simple calendar of how our ADM revenue comes in to us. Last year, the DOE changed how we received our revenue based on the fact that we now have a February count and a May estimated count for financial reasons only. It stands no reason for student transitions or changes. But I put together this simple calendar so that you can see how things change from quarter to quarter in those cash flows and why you notice the trends to differentiation on some of those months. And the first month that makes a pretty substantial difference for us is November of each year. And in November, they readjust for the September ADM. I've put in there what I expect and what I know to be true on the adjustment based on ADM this year. December's our next month for change, and that changes based on our career ed program counts and our honors diploma recipients from the year before. So we'll see another change in December. Those numbers right now, just for career ed, are down about 40,000, and that has somewhat to do with our relationship with other school systems that we share students. So we will see some decrease in funding, at least at this point, for that. The next adjustment comes in January, so we have this trend for a little while of constant change. And in January, we get adjusted for our special education count, which occurs on December 1. We do not know right now how those funds are going to look, but they'll look relatively the same as what we've seen last year is what we're expecting. February, our second ADM count happens, and then they make all those changes again in April. So just in time to start looking at June to end your fiscal year. And then in May, I submit my estimated counts to start funding in July the next year's revenue. Now that basic grant is a fiscal grant, July is our big date. So this year, as a part of our annual financial goals, we always have what we call the 65% solution. And the 65% solution is something that the state put into action in a goal for each school to hit 65% of your funds going to direct serve services for your students. And this year, we show 63.7%. Last year, we had a 67.1% number, but this year we made improvements to a whole lot of our buildings, and so those are not actually considered direct serve in this percentage, and that brought our percentage down simply because we maintained some buildings. So that is why the decrease happened from last year to this year. But when we look at the actual numbers, we're going to see a little bit of something different when we look at the same perspectives as far as direct serve services and funding in the general fund. So in this slide, you will see 2012 to 2013 data. My 2014 year isn't over yet, so I only can use those past years to evaluate where we are standing right now. In 2012, our total dollars in, you'll see the funds, which are general fund, transportation, bus replacement, and school lunch. Those are the funds that exist for us as a part of this data. And you'll see that we spent on average $7,038 per student, and that's an 83.3% range when you look at that 2012 data. In 2013, it looks like 73, but the amount per student went up. So $7,195. I put that into perspective when we look at what we actually spent it on. And you'll notice at the bottom is a grid that tells you what color corresponds to what type of purchase. And the brown is salaries. The purple is benefits. The red is purchase services, insurance, and utilities. Green is supplies. And the red, or the orange, I'm sorry, is equipment. And blue is like fees that we pay, most ordinarily like bank fees and things like that. So our biggest portion, which also matches prior graphs that you've seen, is our salaries, and those are about 67% of our total budget. And then next comes benefits, and then we're at the 90% mark. Basically, we spend 10% on everything else that's not salary and benefits. The month-to-date comparison, last year to this year, our revenue is pretty much the same. Our expenditures are a bit higher this year. Some of that has to do with the adult ed program. The way that they funded us last year is quite a bit different than the way they funded us this year, and that was strictly between federal and state funding that we cannot control. And it's just that we took that back in like we used to have the year before. So that's why you'll see kind of a pretty substantial gap in that 13 to 14 number in expenditures. We also had, we all know our P&L bills are a little bit higher, or a lot higher, and other expenses. We the raise that we provided to employees last year also changed that expenditure rate. A year-to-date comparison looks a little bit closer when we look year over year up to this time. It's the same reasoning for those differences. When we look ahead, we're looking to end the year at a minimum balanced budget and possibly a small positive balance. I am waiting on the RP&L bill to come in for this next month, at which time I have been informed there could be a significant jump. So that number may change for next month, but right now I'm going to hold my breath and hope. In 2015, you can see that as well. We'll have Affordable Care Act come into play a little bit for that year, and we will have some changes due to the ATM count in September. It will affect us going forward as well. So we'll see some changes to that basic grant. Revenue will be basically the same. We'll see a little bit go down, and that's ATM count. And expenditures, you'll notice that health insurance will bump a bit, as well as utilities at this point in time. As far as our annual financial goals, you'll be able to see those. They are posted to the web, and they do look very similar to last year. As always, our goal is to balance the general fund budget in 2015. We want to achieve appropriate general fund student classroom teacher ratios, which you set. We want to reduce non-classroom personnel as we need to. And we will only add staff additionally if it meets student needs, and that's defined by the superintendent. And finally, our goal in Richmond Community Schools is to continue to reduce general and administrative costs as much as we can through cooperative purchases, competitive quotes, and efficient use of our resources. So does anyone have any questions tonight?
Can we get a copy of this? I didn't have this.
I didn't see this before tonight.
The quarterly financial report?
The slide.
The slideshow.
Yeah, she just has a couple different bar graphs, but it's in the consent. The information's in the consent.
Yep.
But I'll be glad to send that out.
And we do have to take action on this because we have to approve the 65% goal, correct? Do I have someone who would like to entertain a motion? Kelly will entertain it, and Susie will second it. So, any comments or questions for Mrs. Scow?
I guess I do have one. You mentioned affordable care, and we had done some, I thought, really great work leading up to sort of analyzing our positions, part-time positions, which I thought was phenomenal. But I'm getting the sense that the landscape's still kind of changing, and have we made any adjustments necessary?
We change with what we need to change. Right now, our position doesn't, I mean, we're still maintaining
the Affordable Care Act says that we'll offer it to additional employees at the renewal of 2015. For us, that's not January 1st. It's November 1st.
Right.
So it delays it a little bit for us. And we've worked with Dunn and Associates and had conversations with Ron Cross. So we believe we're on the right page.
And just out of curiosity, I know there was some conversation about whether some of our people were considered seasonal because they don't work all year long.
Oh, you don't get
hourly?
No, you don't get, I'm not exactly sure what you mean, so I don't want to.
Well, because they don't work 365 or 52 weeks a year.
32 hours. Schools are not exempted for any seasonal work other than what is truly seasonal.
Okay.
So that base rate will be factored on 32 hours a week for those 9 months that they work.
Basically.
Okay.
I just know that was a conversation that I remembered, but the jury was still out on things, and no one.
I didn't come prepared.
I know it's just that popped out at me because I remembered how impressed I was basically at the analyzing that we had done of our positions at that time. So.
But you're right; it keeps changing.
I know that's the hard part for folks.
Susie, you had a question?
No, I just had a comment. I thought your presentation was very thorough, and I appreciated it. I just guess I would like to be able to see it ahead of time so that I could, if there are particular things I question, I could ask them.
That is fine. I try to get it as quickly as I can to you. Sometimes the data I don't have right away, so I get you all of the financial documentation
Right.
with your packet.
And I saw
Sometimes
that.
the PowerPoints.
But your presentation is so educational, actually, that it's some of those educational pieces that sometimes I want to make sure I'm understanding them correctly.
Now, that was her goal, to separate herself difference from Bob. All right, well, thank you, Karen.
Thank you. That was great.
I'd like to go ahead and call for the vote now on the 65% goal. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those against, say nay. Nay. Passes 6-0.
Did you say aye?
I did say aye. You only give me one mistake.
All right.
Our next item is approval of an application for our Title II grant, and I'll turn over that recommendation to Dr. Parker.
Okay, thank you very much. I bring to you tonight the application for the 2014-2016 Title II grant. That's the Improving Teacher Quality Grant, and it's a 2-year grant. We're currently working on the 2013-2015 grant, so once this is approved, we probably won't begin spending out of this anytime soon. But these dollars are mainly used for professional development. In the past, we've supported instructional coaches, we've supported our science coach, we partially supported a district literacy coach, and a behavioral coach. In looking at projecting ahead and what our needs will be in Richmond Community Schools, we felt that we wanted to continue with the instructional coach at the secondary level, so the instructional coach at the high school, and the behavioral coach for the district, but elected to put fewer dollars into personnel to free up more dollars for professional development for our teachers. We look at how much professional development we have in need now and project out. We know that we're going to need lots of dollars for our teachers to get up to speed on the technology that we're talking about bringing in. We feel after having implemented a new reading program, a new series at the intermediate level and high school level for language arts, we want to give our teachers some more in-depth training in the area of reading and writing. And we need to continue to work on our maps and making the instructional shifts necessary to ensure that our students are prepared for these higher stakes and more rigorous assessments. So the bulk of the grant is going to be used to support professional development for teachers.
Now, once we approve this a grant request, can we switch in between the different categories, or are we locked into those categories?
No. Once we submit the grant and it's approved, we can make as many amendments as we need to, and we have done that many times.
Okay.
When different needs arise.
Just a question. In freeing up more money for professional development kinds of activities, does that mean that there are positions that we are currently funding with this grant that we will no longer be funding?
No. Well, yes, in one way. We did lose one instructional coach at the secondary level who moved to a different position. So we went from 2 coaches at the high school to 1. But the others have been shifted back to Title I.
Okay.
So we picked up the district instructional reading coach and the math science coach in Title I this year.
Okay. I was just concerned. I
We didn't
wanna
let
make
anyone
sure
go.
we didn't lose other positions.
No.
Just funding them differently is what we're doing. Okay.
I'd like to go ahead and call a vote for the Title II grant application. So, do I have a motion? Susie gives me the motion. Kelly gives me the second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Say nay. Pass 6-0.
Our next item is the recommendation for Policy 2265. This would be a first reading. It's based on conversations and discussions that we've had over the last several weeks. And we came together in a work session along with some public at our last board meeting. This recommendation is the same recommendation that I presented at the last board meeting. Anyone's welcome to look back at that discussion, look at the minutes, and it appeared to me that the board had a solid position, and this policy recommendation is a reflection of the position that the board took. There are a couple changes here from the last policy, and that is focusing on the common good and the fact that we also look at our co-curriculars and our extracurriculars as lab settings to give students and teachers an opportunity to apply what we do in the classrooms out into the fields or the pools or the courts or wherever. We also wanted to specify that at the intermediate level especially, it would be 50% of the day as opposed to 3 courses, because that's not always something that works. That course count doesn't always work at the intermediate. So that was discussed at our last session. I'm recommending for first reading and moving that on to a second, the policy as presented.
Make that motion.
Suzanne makes the motion to move it to second reading, and
Second.
Dixie seconds it. I'd like to, any comments or questions? I'd like to start off by saying that I appreciated the process that we went through. I think that when a community member stands up and challenge a policy, I think we should do the right thing and we should review the policy, and that's exactly what we did. Unfortunately, sometimes the policy can't be changed to exactly to what someone would want it to be, but on the other side of the fence, it probably stayed the same way that somebody wanted it to. So I appreciated the process that we went through. I know it kind of felt like everybody was put on the line on the spot on a couple different times, but I appreciate the work. So with that said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All of those against say nay. Nay. No nays, so no nays.
Vote twice.
I get to vote twice, though. It passed 6-0 to move to second reading. So now with that, we move into our second portion of our public commentary. Is there anybody that wishes to make any comments? Next item on our agenda is board reports, old business. And
I'm bringing none to the board.
I didn't have anybody bring anything to the board to follow up under old business, so. Next item on our agenda is the preview for the upcoming meeting and events.
The preview would include a final reading and adoption of Policy 2265. I'm counting on the Finance Committee to also help us move forward a recommendation on the disposition of the Garrison property. Perhaps we'll also have an AP teacher recognition at the next board meeting. But we also anticipate by the next board meeting, I think it's the next board meeting, we should have
November
school grades.
5th. We should have our school grades unembargoed.
So we'll have a presentation on that, a discussion of that. And along with that, we might want to be looking ahead at next year's ISTEP and talking about what to expect, because that will have some impact on our school grades.
We can show you some of the item types.
So those items are just some ideas that we might be bringing at the next, not at this point, not at the next board meeting.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else on the upcoming meeting? All right. Now we'll move to.
I just have a question. I was just wondering what this is.
Let me deal with that in the update.
Oh, okay.
And we'll be bringing that
Thank you.
forward for a conversation
Thank
another
you.
time. And maybe it would be at the next board meeting. I'm just not sure about that yet.
Okay.
All right. Now we'll move to the press conference. Was there any questions? Or? Last item on our agenda is the adjournment bell ringer. So.
If Linda Morgeson had been here, what we were going to initiate tonight was what we're going to call the bell ringer adjournment. And
nice.
what that's about is I will present a comment, just a quick snippet of something that I've observed in the corporation, and she will ring the bell. Jeff will ring the bell tonight.
Well, I can do that.
As soon as it's over, we want to end the meeting on an up note, on an uptick.
I think that's great.
And I want to share with you
We've got
that
so many positives tonight.
Oh, we have a lot of positives.
Yeah.
And what I want to share tonight is something that happened last night. Ron Mays directed my attention to the fact that we have put new carpeting at Vale Elementary. And I wanted to take a look at that last night with no students on it, no teachers on it. I just wanted to see what it looked like. So at around 7 o'clock, maybe a little after, I went over to Vail, thinking that the building would be empty.
Wrong.
I went up into a third grade classroom, turned the light on, and someone yelled down the way. You know how those rooms are connected, and said, "Who's there?" I looked down there. 2 of our 3 third grade teachers, Sue Greason and Shauna Thrasher, were working and wanted to make sure that they were not being invaded by someone who shouldn't have been there. I said, "You 2 are putting in some overtime." I went home. Of course, my wife's a teacher at Vail, and she said, "Those 2 put in that time all the time." She said, "You can go almost any night and you'll find them working." They were working especially for the literacy event tonight at Vail. And I just wanted to call attention to that fact that we had some just typical dedication, but it happened way beyond the school day. There you go.
Good job, Jeff.